Thank you, Reverend Taylor, for opening your pulpit today and allowing me to share in this great and auspicious occasion. And as a member of the Community Renewal Society and the Leaders Network, you have modeled a sense of commitment, and I say congratulations to the Unity Temple congregation on such a great achievement. I tell you, that choir just messed me up. I tell you, boy, I don't see how y'all could just sit here and be quiet and Now look, I'm gonna tell you, from my tradition, I just gotta just lay it out if y'all don't mind. I come from a very call and response, atmosphere, and if there are not at least 3 or 4 amens along the way, it just adds another 5 or 10 minutes to what I have to say. So I need it. Yeah, there you go. Now you feel the spirit. Now you feel the spirit. I think we'll be all right. But as a member of the board of the Community Renewal Society and the Leaders Network, and I'm so glad to see the co-chair of the Leaders Network and Pastor Ira Ackery, who's here, and also to see my social justice servant leader, Ms. Maisel Sykes. Unity Temple have shown a commitment to the cause of justice. And I congratulate you today on this rededication of your building, but also rededication of purpose. You have really led the way. CRS, you've been a leading congregation at the Dr. King events that we have every year. Consistently, you lead in attendance, having over 100 members, and that is a lot. That is a great achievement. Amen. 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 You have traveled the roads to Springfield to lobby and to advocate for the sealing of criminal records for those who are seeking reentry back into society so they can find meaningful employment and jobs. That means a lot. And not only that, but you all were able to get a couple of Republicans to say yes, too. Amen. So I thank you for standing tall for justice, and standing tall for others who can't seem to stand for themselves. You've been an example of what it takes to do justice work. To do justice work, you must have courage. To do justice work, you must have committed consistency. To do justice work, you must have compassion for others. To do justice work, you must have character. You must have, as you said, integrity. You must have a sense of service, and yes, you must have some joy. To do justice work, you must have community. To do work of justice, you must get to know community. But also, to do the work of justice, you must have unity. You must have unity. To do justice, you must do it for the worship of God and for the service of man. When you pour yourself out for justice, the world takes notice. Cornel West said this: never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. So I stand before you today to do a prophetic challenge. Each month at the Leaders Network meeting, we have a prophetic challenge. And the prophetic challenge is roughly about 7 minutes, and I think Reverend Taylor has given me an extra 3 minutes. And I have my wife and children here. They're probably sweating because they know at my church, my introduction is just 10 minutes alone. So I have a great challenge. But in doing the prophetic challenge, the Leaders Network, we have our monthly meeting. We begin with a prophetic challenge with a hope to encourage and to inspire and to motivate and to recharge the servants' batteries who is involved in ministry and in the life and in a job and public service and community leadership of helping others. So we have the prophetic challenge to recharge our batteries. And so while you're here today to rededicate, I hope that through this prophetic challenge, your batteries get even more recharged. So I begin my prophetic challenge to you, Unity Temple, with a reading from the scriptures as a charge to you and a response to a community and a country that's in a justice crisis. In Psalm 82, here it is. It says, defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. A favorite proverb of mine is, the world was not left to us by our parents. It was lent to us by our children. That African proverb reminds us, should remind all of us, that as we assemble here today, we possess in our hand the kind of society that we're going to pass on to our children and to our grandchildren. In many ways, the society we will pass on to the future generations is not one full of dreams that Dr. King talked about many years ago, but right now, and if we give them what we have in our hand right now, amen, the society in our hands is one that will be full of injustice. It will be one that we will give full of racial injustice, economic injustice, environmental injustice, education injustice, criminal injustice, housing injustice, and not to mention, as someone said, neo-Nazi and white supremacy ideology that seems to be gaining momentum even as we stand here today. It feels like an American horror story. The rest of the world is watching in disbelief as we continue to pretend that our nation is whole. But you and I, if we be honest with each other, we would say, no, our nation is not whole, but it has some weak spots. It has some sicknesses and some diseases that only justice can solve. But can I express to you my sentiments today? I think America, in all of its greatness and all of its power, and leader of the free world, America is losing its sense of justice. As God is minimized and removed from almost every aspect of public and civil ranks, and the people of faith many times remain the silent giant on matters related to injustice, so goes the source of justice. Because when you take the beloved of God's people and community out of justice, then how can you really have true justice? We're getting used to behavior and injustice that is not good for us today, and it won't be good for our children's future tomorrow. In order for true change to happen, we as a collective society of believers must get to the root of the problem. And I believe that God is shining a spotlight on some of the root problems and some of the injustices in this land. But so many are refusing to see the problems, even with the light of truth beaming so bright upon it. Is it okay to stay quiet in the face of injustices because you believe it does not affect your doorstep? Yes, the answer is no. There is a quote from Rigoberta Menchú, a political activist in Guatemala. She said, "Peace cannot exist without justice. Justice cannot exist without fairness. Fairness cannot exist without development. Development cannot exist without democracy. Democracy cannot exist without respect for the identity and worth of all cultures and all people." So Unity Temple, I challenge you to not to succumb to what I call the religious social clubitis. Oh yeah, the religious social clubitis. Reverend Dr. King summed up the religious social clubitis when he said, I quote, "If today's church does not replicate the sacrificial spirit of the early church, it will lose its authenticity. It will forfeit the loyalty of millions and be dismissed as an irrelevant social club with no meaning for the 20th century." People of Unity, I like the word unity. UNITY. It's full of so much power and potential. To me, unity is defined as all hands on deck. Yet, if you drop the Y off the spelling of unity, then all you have is a unit. As a single unit that could be part of a larger component, you see, unity, UNIT, you must not forget the Y in what you do. You can't drop the Y because you have a big building, but you must maintain the Y because without the Y, you're just a unit, but you don't have unity. You see, the Y is the internal fire. The Y is the internal value system, the internal spirit. The Y, the UNITY or the WHY, is the why you're in existence for such a time as this. The why is that that you say, I'd rather be a thermostat that consistently regulates the heat that's put on injustice than be a thermometer that sits on the table waiting for the hand of somebody else to be waved. Why the YHY or WHY or the Y is clear. You have to have better unity of purpose. But if you lose your why that's attached to this congregational unit, losing your why for doing justice, then your united power will diminish to just another religious congregational unit who has lost its fire to make a difference. So unity, I ask you, do you still have some fire for justice? If you drop your why, your congregation unit would never have the power of unity. You see, you can't have unity if you don't have your why. When the congregation unit has the UNITY, the unit can do the impossible. Unity Temple, you can be a justice difference maker. Unity Temple, you can be a game changer for the cause of social justice. Unity Temple, you can be a rock that helps crush the cutting edges of injustice and inequality. You can embrace the spirit of your name and help unify humanity, all under the banner of justice. And Unity Temple, guess what? It's not just you. It's not just you, but it's you and I. Lord have mercy, forgive me. This is what my Catholic education has done to me, right? It's you and I together yearning, you and I together yearning for justice, for righteousness, and the good of every human being. Unity Temple, it's not just you, but it's you and I together yelling in the ear of unjust laws and lawmakers. Unity Temple, it's not just you and I, but it's you and I together yelling in the ears of unjust institutions. Unity Temple, it's you and I together yelling in the ears of unjust elected officials. Unity Temple, it's you and I together yielding to the voice of God's call to do justice, to love mercy, defend the weak, defend the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor, build the house and of the cause of the oppressed, yield to the voice of God, rescue the weak and the needy, yielding to the voice of God to deliver them from the hand of the wicked. Yes, it's you and I together. Why? Because God's people, because we're charged to create the beloved community, to create a culture of justice that reflects the holy character of God, so we can hand the next generation not a bundle of community chaos, but we can hand them a more just society for all to live and share in the beautiful dream. So, Reverend Taylor, I thank you. I call Reverend Taylor my road dog, because he and I, on the Water for Flint campaign, we rode in a truck carrying cases and hundreds of cases of water. We rode in a big truck that we didn't really have proper license for. But justice said, go on anyway. So Reverend Taylor, I congratulate you in Unity Temple. And I want you to let you know, like Dr. King said in that I Have a Dream speech, he said, look here, we have come to the crossroads in the time where there is a fierce urgency of now. So Unity Temple, we have to understand that now is the time to stand up for justice, that now is the time to stand up for what is right and righteous, that now is the time that we stand up for the community of brotherhood and the beloved. And I remind you that after those wonderful people who did the the Selma March, amen, some many years ago, they had marched from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. And if you can imagine going the distance to march for justice and to march for what is right, when they got to the end of the road, obviously there was many who was tired. But you know what? Instead of giving up, they just sung that old Negro spiritual, I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. So Unity Temple, as you go forward in what you have been purposed to do, you have to uphold that old song, I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. we've come too far, because guess what? The choir already told us, and they say that when injustice rise up, we have somebody who can order our steps. That when racism rise up, that we can have something and somebody to order our steps. So Unity Temple, may the good Lord bless you, and may they ever be with the peace of God. Thank you so much.